Back on the Young Turks Air America Radio. Thanks for listening in, everybody. Ben Mankiewicz, Cenk Uygur, Jill Pike with you, and we're pleased to introduce our next guest. He is former Senator Max Cleland from Georgia, joining us now. Senator Cleland, thanks for taking the time to talk to us.
Well, good morning. I like the title of the show, The Young Turks. You know, of course, that phrase came after the World War I, after the fall of the sick men of Europe, it was called, the Ottoman Empire, and the Young Turks tried to say that we appreciate you all trying to save our country and get us out of this disastrous war in Iraq.
That is exactly what we're trying to do. We like to think of ourselves as young, and we definitely want to shake up a system that is obviously broken. Let me start by asking you. You served one term in the United States Senate from Georgia. There are many Democrats who feel that the best tactic the party can take is to write off the South. I want to ask you first about whether that's a good strategy, and second, whether the two Democrats challenging incumbents, at least in Virginia, and the incumbent party in Tennessee, whether Jim Webb in Virginia and Harold Ford in Tennessee, whether you think how you assess their chances. But first, should Democrats in general be writing off the South electorally?
No. When Democrats have won the presidency, they've always carried some states that have been regarded as in the South. I mean, when President Clinton won the first time, he had Al Gore from Tennessee. They carried Tennessee and Arkansas. And now, of course, before that, Jimmy Carter carried the Georgia, Mississippi, and some other states.
Sure, but isn't it getting harder and harder, though, Senator, for Democrats?
It is. But the Republicans are becoming more and more just kind of in a tight circle. Pretty much, shall we say, Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi. Other states are in play. Missouri, she's, I guess, a borderline southern state. Claire McCaskill has a shot there to win the U.S. Senate seat. In Arkansas, you've got a shot to take the governorship there and some other races. In Tennessee, you've got a real shot here with Harold Ford in a massively competitive and bitter and ultimately racially divided campaign. You got Virginia with Jim Webb, a very credible candidate with a military background and a son in Iraq. He wears his son's boots campaigning. So we're taking it to them. We're not going to win all of the South. That is the bastion of Republican strength in America. But everywhere else, Montana, Idaho, we're actually set to make some gains. And in the Midwest, Pennsylvania, Ohio, even parts of Indiana, the Republican Party is collapsing.
Senator Cleland, we were just talking, of course, about the Tennessee race that you just mentioned with Harold Ford and Bob Corker. Obviously, Corker's run those ads that some find racially tinged. What's your take on that? Do you find that those ads are racist, and do you think that might have an effect in Tennessee?
Well, in the South, the Republicans have picked up where the old Dixiecrats of Strom Thurmond left off. And that's the best way to radicalize your white base, especially white males, is to point to the black constituency in some way, usually in a negatively racially divisive way. You see that emerging now in Tennessee. Corker has disavowed the ads, but that still doesn't make it right. You've got a white Playboy bunny, blonde, looking into the camera saying, "Give me a call, Harold." Well, that is inflammatory, and it has nothing to do with, quite frankly, Iraq or the economy and whatever. So that Republicans can't win on the real issues that the American people are really concerned about. And so they're playing the race card with 2 weeks out. And I think American people, and certainly Southerners, ought to be outraged, white and black, because this isn't the way we should do business. Now, Harold's going down the attack against this, but it is a deliberate play to radicalize white males toward the Republican Party, which is what's been happening since Nixon's Southern strategy in the late 60s. It's exploitive of the white male contempt for white women going after blacks, or black men going after white women, and it is as blatantly racial as you get.
We're talking to former Senator from Georgia, Max Cleland. Senator Cleland, See, I've never lived in the South, and I grew up in New Jersey. Now I'm in California, and so I don't understand it. You know, when I see a white blonde woman saying, "Hey, call me," to a black guy, I find that to be the most normal thing on the planet. In Tennessee and in the South, is that something where white men still to this day in 2006 recall and go, "Oh, I can't believe a white woman would ask a black man to call her"? Do they still have that point of view down in the South?
Well, yeah. I mean, to a certain extent. But you got to play more dummies here, which is pardon the pun, a play on the question that Harold Ford's a playboy. Mm-hmm. You see, I mean that's the whole thing, and it's like the swift boating thing with Kerry. It's like the unpatriotic thing morphing me with Osama bin Laden and Saddam Hussein in 2002, and calling McCain in effect unpatriotic and not standing up for veterans in South Carolina by the Bush people in 2000. It is the ultimate hot button, and what we now need to do is to make sure that this is countered in every way, and the people of good faith and goodwill, black and white, say this is not the South we need to go back to. That we can rise above this. And I think the people of Tennessee will maybe react this way, because Tennessee is a great state, and so I think this may be like the acid test of where the American people really are, particularly here in the South. Tennessee's a positive state. They got a good Democratic governor. He's going to be reelected, and it's the battle royal. But this is how desperate the Republicans are to nail a candidate for the U.S. Senate, which would give the Democrats, quite frankly, the Senate.
Well, let's. I hope that we all hope that it does. Of course, we're talking to former Senator Max Cleland from Georgia, and for those of you who don't know, Senator Cleland, also a Silver Star and a Bronze Star, has them both for valorous action in combat in Vietnam, where, of course, tragically he lost both of his legs and one arm, and so, Senator, obviously you know of what you speak when you talk about sort of combat and what's happening on the ground. In Iraq. There was a time about a year ago when the comparisons to Vietnam were plentiful. We seem to have gotten away from that now. I'm curious, do you still see significant comparisons between Iraq and Vietnam? What's similar, what's different, and what the hell do we do next?
Well, what the hell do we do next is we pull the forces out of this total chaos that in effect we have created. I mean, keep in mind that we fired security forces in Iraq. We fired the Iraq army. Dumb. Stupid. And then this president bought off on Rumsfeld's plan, which was not Colin Powell's plan in 91, by the way, to send in only 1/5 of the forces that we needed. And then Bush stood up on the aircraft carrier with a flight suit that he never wore in combat, of course.
Of course.
As it dropped out from the Alabama Guard, it said major combat over, mission accomplished, bring them on. Since that time, almost 2,800 kids have been killed, 20,000 wounded, 10,000 of which maimed for life, 20% of which have traumatic brain injury due to the concussions. It is time to redeploy our forces out of harm's way in Iraq, period. And this administration trying to furthify it. And so, well, we haven't used the term stay the course since August. Hell, they're consistently staying the course. They want to change the bumper sticker. They want to change the dialogue so that they can survive politically. But the American people see through this. We're going to take back the House, and we're on the verge of taking back the U.S. Senate because the American people are ready to take back this country.
Let me ask you another question, if I could change topics a bit. Talking to former Senator Max Cleland of Georgia, I'm reminded in doing some research on you that you were initially appointed to serve on the 9/11 Commission. You resigned, thought the administration was stonewalling regarding access to certain papers. We get a lot of callers here, and we're rather short with them. Kurt, who alleged some sort of 9/11 conspiracy, and they frequently quote you. And I wonder if you were satisfied that the 9/11 Commission gave, I'm sure it's a question you've answered before, but gave a satisfactory report on what happened leading up to September 11th.
No. First of all, they never touched the sensitive issue, which was all-inclusive. The charge of the 9/11 Commission was all-inclusive by the U.S. Congress. And I was the original co-sponsor of that resolution, by the way. And then I asked Tom Daschle to sit on the commission because I thought it would be a very serious inquiry into America's most serious surprise attack since Pearl Harbor.
Right.
But it was not. Basically, the White House stonewalled, and now we know something the 9/11 Commission didn't know and didn't put in the report. According to George Tennett's book, he personally went over to Condi Rice in July of 2001 and said that Al-Qaeda and bin Laden was determined to strike in the U.S. That's July. Condi Rice didn't even call a meeting after that. Secondly, we now know, due to the 9/11 Commission, that August 6th, the president got a presidential daily briefing saying bin Laden determined to attack in the U.S. He went on vacation. So the conspiracy is not so much a conspiracy, but a deliberate effort by the administration, this administration, to ignore all the warnings by our allies, by George Tenet, by even the outgoing people like Sandy Berger from the Clinton administration, that terrorism was going to be their big enemy. They ignored all that, and they want to build up some anti-ballistic system in Alaska and Hawaii against North Korea. Well, North Korea has now taken the bait, and they are developing a nuclear program. But this administration ignored it all, was surprised. And now they went into Iraq instead of going after Osama bin Laden. Now that is this big strategic error. Not only did you screw up in terms of not paying attention to your legitimate intelligence, they created false intelligence within the Pentagon to justify the war in Iraq. Of course, there was all lies. There are no nuclear weapons there. There were no ties to Osama bin Laden, and there was no nuclear weapons coming up from Africa, or materials coming up from Africa. All lies. And this administration has been stay the course for 4 years now. Now, 2 weeks out, they want to change the bumper sticker. The president said that it's only a quarter of stay the course. I wonder, when you lose part of your body, did the quarter of your body that you lost in Iraq, a quarter of your body will stay the course, and the other 3/4 we really don't know until Tony Snow makes up some new phrase in the White House press briefing? Give me a break here. This is absolute disaster, and it's time to pull the troops out and bring the Guard and Reserve home to guard our borders and commit our active forces covertly and overtly to killing or capturing Osama bin Laden and his terrorist cadre. It's still Al-Qaeda stupid and has been since 9/11.
Senator Cleland, you've been very generous with your time. I have to ask one incredibly quick follow-up question because you mentioned it. You said that they were deliberate with their negligence pre-9/11. Why would they be deliberate with their negligence?
Because first of all, they're all focused on going to war in Iraq. Every book, every indication, every piece of evidence coming out of the Bush administration from day one, especially since he chose Dick Cheney as his vice president. Cheney and Wolfowitz put together the original plan to take out Saddam Hussein in '92. Bush 1 didn't buy it. Clinton darn sure didn't buy it. But this president bought into it from day one. The first National Security Commission, NSC meeting in the White House was all about Iraq. It wasn't about terrorism. It was about invading Iraq. And so, every indication says this president was determined to invade Iraq. So was Cheney, so was Rumsfeld, and that's all they were thinking about. Even after the attack, they let Osama bin Laden go, and they pulled assets, predator assets, intelligence assets, task force assets, and set up the war in Iraq, which has now been going on now for almost 4 years. It is a disaster. They went after the wrong enemy in the wrong way at the wrong time for the wrong reason, and now they're coming up short in election time because the American people see through it.
Senator Max Cleland, former senator from Georgia, generous with your time. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Coming right back on the Young Turks on Air America Radio.